If anybody's ever done that, if anybody's ever built a company from the ground up and decided it's time to leave, it's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life next to starting the business. But every now and then, you get those feelings like, hey, it's time to try something different.
Welcome to the Onsite Podcast. We chat with contractors, educators, industry professionals about the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's fucking get into it. Welcome back to the Onsite Podcast. I'm super excited to dig into today's episode. We are in 2026, so new year, new plans, new strategies. Today we've got a special guest. His name is Brady Morris. He is out of Woodstock, Ontario. Brady is actually one of the new coaches within the Elite Builder Society. I need a little bit of help, and so fortunately Brady and I connected via social a few months ago. I don't know how long exactly. It must be at least 5-6 months ago, and came across each other's content, started talking, expanded on, what this could look like. Brady's got a deep history inside of the construction experience, and I'm super excited to dig into this with you today. Brady, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brandon. This is awesome. Really looking forward to the talk.
Awesome. So Brady, give a little bit of an intro, who you are, where you're from, and just kind of go off, and then we'll dig in from there based on kind of the conversation and how it expands.
Yeah, sure. So currently I live in, as you mentioned, Woodstock, Ontario. Originally, I'm actually from a small town called Kingsville, which is just a little bit east of Windsor. Moved up this way when I was 20. I just turned 40 in November. So to give you an idea how long I've lived in this area.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, the 40-year club. It's a fun club to be a part of. Yeah. Definitely, you have more perspective, that's for sure. I'm kind of using my next decade as kind of running with that perspective that I've gained over the last basically 25 years, I guess, call it, like in the industry. Yeah, so originally, again, from Kingsville, I actually moved up to Kitchener, Ontario when I was 20. Married my wife actually at 23 in the Kitchener area. Moved down to Woodstock at about 27, 28, and I've been here for the last, 13 or 14 years. In that time, we've been fortunate. We've had my wife and I have 2 boys, 13 and 11 now. So I actually got to experience running a company. So I was a general contractor for about 15 years. Had a 7-figure business. I got to do all the fun things growing that business with 2 young kids and a new wife. So that was interesting. So I guess kind of like background, I guess how I tie into the industry is I was in Kingsville. I went to Kingsville High School, and I got into a co-op program at 16 with a custom home builder, and I really enjoyed that. So I actually ended up taking an apprenticeship on with them when I graduated high school, and did that in the carpentry field for I'd say about 4 years. At what point it was kind of, when you're living in a small town, there's only so many options, right? So I had a sister who was living up in Kitchener who actually found a job ad for me up in Guelph, working for a home builder. So I actually applied for that job and got it. And the position was an assistant site supervisor. And just kind of given the background that I had with being a carpenter, I quickly leveled up to a site supervisor, at about 20 years old, and ended up closing about 250 houses by the time I was 24. And with, that's a pretty big learning curve, going from custom home building to almost like a production mindset. Yeah. So through that, I learned a lot of basic project management, scheduling, how to run big crews, how to run teams. But as it goes, I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I just wasn't okay making somebody else money. So I actually branched off on my own, started a business in Kitchener. Just two silly idiots driving around in a truck trying to get work. And we all know how that story goes, right? You get a couple of jobs, you do a good job, you build a reputation, you get busier and you get busier, you get busier. Grew that company to about 20 employees. I think we had 12 vehicles, again, seven-figure company. And as you're growing that, you realize, man, I'm a really good carpenter, but I'm a terrible business owner. Like, I don't know anything.
Yeah. So
ended up reaching out for some help. I think you and I will probably dive into this, Brandon. Received some business coaching from I'd say a newer company at the time. In the short term, it really filled some gaps. Long term, I think we'll dive into it. It wasn't the best fit, which kind of as the path of career goes, ties me into why I'm a coach now. But anyway, so we were able to scale that company and kind of learn how businesses run, learn how to do WIP calculations, forecast revenue, build proper project management schedule, all that kind of stuff. Well, 15 years in, I decided I was ready for something else. So I decided to sell my share to my business partner at the time. and move on, which is if anybody's ever done that, if anybody's ever built a company from the ground up and decided it's time to leave, it's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life next to starting the business. But every now and then, you get those feelings like, hey, it's time to try something different.
100%. I want to touch on that too, because like my situation, I had a business partner in one of my companies. So I had a few different companies, and one of my companies was a resinous coating company. So we did that alongside a construction company because it was a great complementing business. You get premium clients want, premium garage, and it was just an easy connection. And so I was actually going through a divorce like the same day, it felt like. And my business partner comes in and he's like, man, I'm looking at moving to BC. And I'm like, oh, he's like, I'd like to discuss getting, bought out. And I was just like, man, I'm also going through a divorce. And he's like, oh shit, I didn't even know that. So within 30 to 60 days, formulated a way to get him to what he wanted to do, because, there's a point that you get to in business, whether you're the solopreneur or you're a partner, and you feel like, you know what, I'm ready for something different. And once you get that in your head, it's really hard for that to go away, and I don't know what your circumstances were, and we can dig into that a little bit, but, you were a part of a big business. It was great. I'm sure it's still doing great today. And, there was just something that was a higher power that was telling you, what, my time is going to be probably better spent somewhere else. And once you get that itch, it's like, it's hard. And I didn't want to talk him out of it. I was like, no, dude, I get it. Like, you don't want to be here. You shouldn't be here, right? You want to go somewhere else. You got to kind of follow your soul and your heart. And so I can really relate with that in a different way, from the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I mean, my business partner is really good with it. We're pretty amicable right now. He and I, as you know, I was 24 when I started that company. I was about 27, I think. And as you grow, your priorities shift, right? Like we weren't the same men anymore that we were coming in at 24 to 27 years old. He ended up having four daughters, so he's quite busy with them, and just priorities kind of shifted to, I wanted to take the business one way. He kind of wanted to go the other, and it was just like, well, I think one of us probably has to go. And I was kind of feeling like, you know what, I'm ready for more. I don't know what more is, but I'm ready to try something else out here. So we went through the whole business evaluation, really hard. That was 2023. Took me about 6 months to get through that. And then all of a sudden you're out of this company that you created, and I'm just out in the world. And it just felt really weird. Like I definitely lost a piece of my identity. I felt like, I'm sure you can relate to this. You went through it with the divorce, with selling your business is you need closure. And I didn't realize that, right? I didn't realize that when I was dealing with it. So I actually just thought, hey, I'm out in the world. Let's get a job. Let's just do the easy thing and get a job. And I've learned over the last, I call it 18 months. I learned that having a job is not easy for somebody who's been their own boss for that long, and just sees the world differently than your 9-to-5 employee or your standard manager. So I took a job with a big GC in Canada, huge company. I'm sure, I don't know if I'm sure I can say it. Ellis Don was the company. They're everywhere, right? And I got to experience firsthand what closing out a $250 million project felt like as a site superintendent. And that was awesome. Like, I will say, I look back on that and like, man, that was a really cool experience. We did some commercial through my company. I did a pretty big job for the Ronald McDonald House in London, Ontario here years ago. And it was awesome. Built some play center, stuff like that, but never anything like basically building out an industrial. This was a battery operating plant.
Okay.
They were going to build EVs. It's all over the news here now in Ontario.
Oh, the one that shut down?
That's the one. Unfortunately, it's too bad. I mean, I feel bad for the township. They lost a lot of jobs, but I mean, they spent a lot of money on that plant. So I'm hoping they figure something out.
Man, that is crazy. See,
yeah.
The craziest part about life is that the world is so much smaller than you think. Yeah. So many things are so interconnected. Yeah, that was on the news. Yeah, for sure. That's crazy that you were part of that build out. I mean, you weren't part of the, the conspiratorial elements that existed with it, but what a waste. Hopefully they can find some way to bring that back, because that would have been a lot of jobs taken away as well. You a $250 million facility. How many people would have been working there?
Well, our contract was 250. The job itself was bigger than that, right? So, it was a joint venture. So they ventured with a company out in the States. And I believe that's how they got in. This GC in the States got in because they needed to partner with a Canadian company for all the incentives. Yeah. But I did get to see the inner politics, right? Like when you're the head super on a closeout, like I had to sit with a lot of vice presidents on the different, like as the owner, as the contractors rep, I had to sit on with VPs and project managers on the GM side, all that kind of stuff, right? And I did get to see a lot of the politics in it, and that's kind of started to develop. Like this, I'm a small town boy. I like small businesses. This might not be for me. Having said that, though, I went in and I was like, holy cow! Some days I'm dealing with 300, 400 tradespeople on site, and I'm the guy. I'm the guy they have to go to, and at first it was overwhelming, but then I just took like my business, like kind of everything, the leadership I learned through owning a business, all the different construction projects combined and what worked and what didn't. And I ended up kind of picking the people on the team. So when you're in a big commercial project like that, you're going to have a project coordinator. I was lucky I had two. I had a foreman. I had all these kind of people, and I kind of picked like the best of them and surrounded myself with these people and just kind of ran with it and hit all of our dates. And commercial construction, substantial completion is a huge milestone to hit. And we did it all basically to like the minute when we were supposed to do it. And it was actually pretty rewarding.
That would be incredibly rewarding considering what you've gone through. The sense of validation that you would get from the success of that is huge. So, I mean, congratulations. And, to add to that, I feel like honored in a roundabout way to have you as one of our coaches in the community. There's so much value. And that's what's super unique about, life is that, everybody possesses different skills and abilities. They have different life experiences. And this is where fundamentally a coach becomes so beneficial, is like my skills and abilities and my life experiences are different than yours, right? But your skills and abilities and your life experiences complement what we're already doing. So collectively together, the two of us, significantly complement anyone that we're working with. For them to obtain those experiences would be a whole nother lifetime, Yeah. And I think what's incredibly amazing, what I've learned in this industry as being a coach is, and why the value is just so visible, because I never had a coach when I started my business. I didn't even know coaches weren't even really a thing, and I'm a little older than you, just a little bit.
You don't need to admit it.
Yeah, no, I'm a little older than you, but at that time there was nothing like that. And like, if I was a contractor in another room right now, and I heard there's these two guys, Brady and Brandon, are coaching people inside of the Elite Builder Society. If I knew that these two guys possessed these types of skills and abilities, I would try and extract everything I can from them, because it just gives you the trajectory that you're probably dreaming of. If you had, I know that you were running through some other programs, and we can dig into that a little bit too. And you can speak freely. I think we're just having a conversation. So if we end up talking about something, it's totally fine. But I mean, if you would have had that access to that when you were starting your business at 24, it might have been too much for you. Maybe like it might have been like too much information for you to recognize the things that you need to do differently in your business. It might have been a little bit, like in a roundabout way, overwhelming until it was properly digested, until you were, matured enough. I think 24 is young to start a business. And I mean, props to you that, you got through those days. Cause like, I think we're still maturing. You was 24, you said, right? You started that?
Yeah.
I think you're still maturing. I think like by the time you're like 26, cause I remember when I was 26, I was freaking out. I was like, how do I not have my shit figured out at 26? Like, I need the world figured out. I need to know everything. And I think, every year you mature significantly more. By the time you get to your 30s, you're now a confident man, and you're going through these reps. So I mean, for you to grow a business like that with a partner or with not or without, doesn't really matter, I think is a huge milestone as well, that really probably gave you further confidence to close out a $250 million project. Like, I think that the young hardship that you would have went through building that confidence would have probably given you a larger amount of confidence jumping into this next journey. And I'm excited, to be a part of your next season of life. Your 40s, you're going to be a coach.
They're going to be intentional based, kind of based on what you're saying, like all that perspective. Like you nailed it. Like you're nailing it right now with what you're saying with all that, basically, like as coming in at 24, to your point, if there were coaches, I probably would have had too much ego and been too ignorant to know, one, the questions to ask, and two, like, I'm a 24-year-old dude. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I know everything, right? Like, I know how to build a house. Like, okay. Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. You're a 24-year-old dude, and you have, like, just say this is an opportunity, because like we have people that we could work with all the time, and their response is, I don't need a coach. My friend is in the industry. He's helping me. But now let's just be realistic. Okay. You have two people that collectively have been on the planet for 80 years, right? And a little bit more, because I'm a little bit older. 84 years. But both of us have been in the industry for at least 2 decades. So that's 40 plus years of shit that we've gone through, right? And you're 24 and you're still maturing, you're still growing. Now imagine if you had 40 plus years sitting across from you saying, hey, Brady, I think these are some things that you should implement in your business. I think it'd be hard for any 24-year-old to be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, that sounds great. That being said, there are some young people out there. If you're a young contractor that's listening to this and you actually absorb, people like Brady and myself, if you absorb that information, you will be a fucking monster.
Hey, we've got an ad here. Make sure to pay attention. What's up, guys? Are you a contractor or business owner looking to take things to the next level? Well, I've got something for you. The Elite Builder Society is a community that helps contractors grow and scale. For $49 a month, you can have access to 20 group coaching calls. Look, you're probably wondering, how am I going to show up to 20 calls, Brandon? That's a lot. And yeah, it is a lot for $49 a month. But every call is recorded so you can watch it at your leisure. But you get the best experience when you're live on the call with us. Okay, at the end of every webinar, there will be a Q&A where you can ask the industry expert questions that you can implement into your business. Look, if you're ready to take things to the next level for $49 a month, go to ebsworks.com and register today. I look forward to seeing you inside the community.
Imagine if you had 25 years of experience, ran alongside people that have done or doing what you've done. Your growth would be like on another planet. Your mistakes would be like next to nothing. And, I think that, you were expanding into that. I want to dig into that too. Just like, what would it be like if you had us in front of you? What do you think that would feel like, at that age? And at what point in your journey do you think you would have been able to receive coaching?
Yeah, for me, it was basically like the school of hard knocks, man. I'd lost enough money. I'd had enough sleepless nights that it was like, I need help. And, my business partner at the time and I were very aligned with that. Is like, to grow this to the next step, like, we're going to need something. Like we have a good network of people. We have a decent accountant, which, if you've overrun a business, you'll know that the accountant never really gives you true advice. It's like, here's 18 things you could try. They don't want the liability or whatever it is. We had some other friends that owned tech companies and stuff like that. But it's not the same. Like it wasn't anything in that industry. So that's what it took for us, was like, hey, I think we were in our 8th year when we decided, like, we're doing, I think at the time we were doing like 2 million. We're like, we want to hit that, 4 plus 7 sort of in there. Like, how are we going to do it? We've kind of exhausted what we can do. You can only read so many books. You can only, and I do want to say, like, books are a huge part of my learning, but you can only do so much of that, right? So who are we going to reach out to? So yeah, so we did reach out to a company, and it was really interesting. They were newer to the business coaching side of things. New company. I think they saw, they were entrepreneurs. They saw a big void, I think, in the industry, and they all had collective business experience. And what we kind of came to realize is, through a few years of this, is that there wasn't a ton of construction business experience. So they saw the void, and they met and they built this company, right? And they brought a bunch of contractors in and taught them some key fundamentals, which, I mean, they definitely had value. But over the time, that's actually probably a part of where my business partner and I started kind of growing apart. Was, I started losing the value of that coaching experience and spending a lot of money. Like, I mean, I think, don't quote me, but it was over, $4 or $5 grand a month, right? For that experience.
We're much cheaper. We're much cheaper right now.
Well, and we were
way more.
We were locked in at a I don't want to say a founding rate, because we were newer members when they started, so we were locked in. So they're charging more now. And what started happening was, I kind of exhausted at a point in our company. I took over production. He took over sales. As it was kind of like, we're wearing too many hats. Let's each focus on a lane. So about 10 years in, I decided to go and do the production, have him do sales. And what I found was, like, in these calls, there's no accountability. So they'd sit around, and sometimes, as construction companies have peaks and valleys, and I wanted a straight line. I just want to know when we have revenue coming in, when I have work to tackle, to tackle and actually start to basically build the project and bring in the revenue. So what would end up happening is I sit in these meetings and they'd be talking about some of the same clients that we were trying to sell for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. And I'm like, you guys need to dial in this accountability. Like there's no reason for these projects to take this long to sell. And this kind of gets into my next chapter in my life is like, this has been a big thing I'm coaching people on because it was pain. It was a pain in my life, right? It was a pain in my business, but I had to stay in my lane. So it was like, Brady, we don't want to listen to you sort of thing. We're going to do our own thing. And for me, I was like, you need a documented sales process. You need to put due dates on these things. You need to run these things, these sales like a project, put it in a schedule, have some milestones. Yeah. And it was just like, there was nothing there. And so that would kind of like, for me, it was like, hey, I want to stop paying this fee to this company because of this reason. There's no true accountability. And I think when I sold the company, we were still paying into that coaching business that I don't think I sat in a meeting for 2 years just because I saw the problem, right? Like there's no accountability. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be like rude or anything about it, but like just speak honestly. Like, hey, you guys have been talking, we've been talking about this project I've noticed for the last 6 one-on-ones. What do you need help closing? Because this is going to kill your business. This is going to cause you what you don't need. And that would have been.
Well, I think also what happens is like a lot of even some of the people that I work with, the accountability that you offer needs to be like intentional, I think, in a roundabout way. And I think that the contractor, the business owner that you're coaching, they need to understand that they're in control of everything, right? And if you aren't capable of giving them a clear perspective of what they're maybe doing or not doing good enough, then you're kind of failing in your execution as a coach. But the people that I'm working with, if they come to the call and they're like, oh, I need more leads, it's like, cool, okay. Well, I'm not going to talk about anything else, but the same shit we've already talked about. Are you doing X, Y, and Z? Well, yeah, I'm doing this, but I'm also doing this. It's like, well, you don't need to do that. That's a distraction. Like you need to follow the reps and follow the process so that you can really, be in control. Because I think like the ebbs and flows of business are in our full control. I think we are in full control of the intake and the lead opportunities that exist. And all we have to do is literally turn the dial up or down. And if we know the season of where those ebbs and flows land, then we adjust and control that dial. And it sounds like that program, all they really were fixated on, which is important as well, is the second part, which is doing the work, like the system of doing the work, right? And then that, at some point, the system of doing the work is like crystal clear. It's like, okay, X, Y, and Z, this is what you do. You implement this, you run through this process. But I think like the biggest, most important part, or one of the biggest, most important part is the sales cycle and the sales framework. And so I'm glad that you kind of recognize that we're neglecting essentially, we're neglecting the most important part. And at some point it could all be turned off because you don't have enough, you're not in control of the sales intake. And I think that's what happens with a lot of the people that, we start working with when they initially come in. They don't understand that they're actually in control of the leads and the opportunities. And most people, honestly, they just randomly go from one opportunity to the next, one hopeful phone call to the next hopeful phone call, and hopefully close this job. And there's no structure behind, that whole process. So curious, so you mentioned you recognized this void, right? Mm-hmm. And then what happened? What did you do after that point? Did you dig into, building out some systems? What did you recognize that the missing gap was, and how'd you jump into that part?
Yeah, for sure. Like it changes a little bit for, I was a design build general contractor. So I teach my business to business guys, like my subcontractors, a bit differently. But for specifically speaking, for a design build, you're getting paid basically to do the quote. So we didn't do very many free quotes after about like their third or fourth year in. We created like a pre-construction system, right? So a big thing with that, people are coming in, we're controlling the designs, we're controlling the specifications, we're doing all of that. The big thing that was missing there was who's taking ownership of it? Is it the salesperson, or is it going to be our interior designer? Is it going to be our project coordinator, estimate, whoever? But there was nobody who owned it, right? So what I've done, because actually after my time with Ellis Dawn, I was actually pursued by an old competitor when he saw me on LinkedIn and saw I was no longer with my company. Just one more thing with all this done, so I'm talking about them. I do want to make sure, because this is going to go live, is when I came into that project, I did come in at the end. There was a huge team that brought them to a certain point, and I just want to give them all obviously recognition for that. And they were
right.
Some of those people were dynamite, right? So anyway, with this company, saw me on LinkedIn, kind of called me up, said, Brady, I'm having a bit of I think this is a great opportunity. You're free. Would you come work for me? And I actually talked to my old business partner about it. I said, are you comfortable with this? With it just in the same area, it's a competitor. he was cool with it. I kind of gone through my my non-compete and non-solicitation period and all that kind of stuff. So I said, yeah, you know what? I will come work for you if I can come work on the front end of your company. I've done the project management stuff. I know that's kind of what you want me to do, is come in and work on that side of things. But if you can find something for me on the front end of the company, I'll do it. And so he actually brought me in as like a director of pre-construction and met with the team. And this company is pretty big in Kitchener. They have a great brand. But he was building this company to a point where he wanted to hit, call it over 10 million a year, or whatever it is, right? And he kind of plateaued with what he could do with his systems. And I said, you know what, man, like this thing's been not like lagging in the back of my head since I left my business. I think I can fix this. So essentially all you do is you document a sales process. Here's all of your steps. Here's the different things you need to do to get from lead to qualified lead to booked construction contract. Yeah. And let's put that into a schedule, and then let's make it reasonable. So, obviously a bathroom is going to turn around quicker than a 2,000 square foot addition, obviously. Right. But let's label these things and make sure that we're selling our bathrooms and designing and selling our bathrooms in 3 to 4 weeks. We're selling and we're designing our huge additions, our teardowns and rebuilds. We're doing that within 4 months. Like, let's do that. And then we're gonna make sure that we hit these certain milestones you have to do through it. We're going to assign the task to the right people. And I'm going to meet with my team once a week with what I call a goal setting review. And I'm going to ensure that they're hitting their milestones. And all of a sudden, this company now, it took me about 4.5, 5 months to get everything ironed out. But now this company is able to crank out. They're selling, I think, like when I decided to leave that company, they were closing close to $1 million a month in revenue. So, I mean, depending on where that sales line up, right? That was really validating, because it's like all the pain in my company, I was able to just come in and, I was given the opportunity to come in and put my ideas to practice, and it worked. Yeah. And I've been able to help some of my other clients out with the exact same sales process now, and I'm making it repeatable, and I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at teaching it. I'm getting better at coaching it, which only means my clients are going to get better at executing it.
What's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Onsite Podcast. So here's the deal. We want to grow this show, and we need your help. It's simple. Pay the tax, share the show. That's it. Let's get back into it.
When you identify a problem and you create a solution and you share that solution with 1 or 2 people, and they implement it and it works, and then you compound that across the board, you refine the process, you remove, like most business owners, like, a remodeling or a contractor or a builder, whatever they might be, they are focused on the overall system, the big picture system. They're not getting and most of them aren't, they're not getting into the weeds and trying to really think about what could I do in this one area to really amplify the success of this one area, because they don't have the time, they don't have the bandwidth to stay consistent. And, they're dealing with all these different things that come up, and then, your kid gets sick and you forget about the fact that you're doing X, Y, and Z. And, you've got a tournament this weekend and somebody calls in sick and a sub doesn't show up and orders. So you lose sight of that framework and that process. But when you're coaching it, what I've seen from the other side, and just like you're saying, what I've seen is that you can see a problem, project a solution, right? And then you watch that solution come to fruition and start to take action. And then you identify the problems within the solution that you've already created, so that you can refine it, so that the next person that's implementing it is getting the refined version. And that's what it's been like for me too for the past couple of years. It's like I had a sales framework that I did with my business for the past 2 decades. And it worked great. And so I suggested it to, people to do. And they also got benefit out of it. But then you identify the problems within it that you can refine and make better and progress forward. And I think it makes us again, for that 24-year-old kid, that 24-year-old Brady that was considering starting his business, if he had access to this knowledge and he actually implemented it, be a fucking monster, like a monster. Anybody that's young, that's in construction, or any industry, any service industry, any industry, the best thing you can do, the best investment is finding somebody that is doing this type of shit, because it will just transform your life. I was on a call, and this is outside of what we're talking about, but one of the guys that I've worked with, he's 19. I thought he was actually 24. He's 19. He hasn't activated any coaching yet, but he's 19. He understands that mentorship is huge. He understands that mindset is huge. And I told him yesterday, I was like, dude, you'll be a fucking monster. You'll be a monster. If you continue to lock in like this, you will be unstoppable. You'll be a millionaire by the time you're 25. all day. And most people just don't have the determination to actually drop the ego, right? And just progress forward into some direction. So you implemented these systems, okay? You saw pretty much an immediate success. That company could easily double their revenue if they continue to progress. Like 10 million, if the 10 million was their goal, they could easily hit 20 million within a probably 18-month period.
Yeah.
Like,
well, you almost have to. Yeah. When you get that 10 million, they call that the valley of death, right? Because if you don't grow intentionally, it can crush you.
right.
So yeah. So, and they were doing that. They were doing it intentionally to put the systems in place.
That's an awesome area to dig into. So, dude, you've got tons of knowledge, tons of experience. I'm curious, like, what's the why? Why do you want to help people? Like, why do you want to, it's natural for you and I think we periodically don't even really tell ourselves why do we want to help other people? But I'm curious, like, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm curious, like, what is the why? Why do you want to help people and business owners with everything that you've learned?
Well, it's almost selfishly. It's personal fulfillment. So part of all this journey, right? Like when this is the last little bit that I've been talking about my I call it 2 years of trying to find myself again after selling a company and losing my identity, was like, what do I want to do? Like, what do I enjoy? So I ended up leaving that company in Kitchener just to do a little bit of misalignment. I finally realized that, I need to work for myself to some capacity. And so I left, and I actually, at the time, my wife was starting a reformer Pilates studio in Woodstock here. It was a good time. I was able to leave and take care of her business, like get it going. So I dealt with her budget. I dealt with, all of the fundamental business aspects, including the renovation of the place that we leased and the business licensing and all that kind of stuff that came natural to me as a GC. And as I was doing that, I was like, I'm going to start another general contracting company because it's what I know. And and I started doing it, and I met with some people, and I did some estimates. I did a couple little projects, started kind of looking at maybe getting into design build work again. And I couldn't get out of bed, man. Like I had my heart wasn't in it. Like I pushed myself obviously to get my wife's business up and off the ground. And we've been thoroughly rewarded with that. Actually, I could touch on some business coaching on that as well. But anyway, I couldn't get out of bed, and I wasn't excited. I wasn't excited to go do estimates. I felt like I was not living in my skin anymore. And through that time, I was actually meeting with past subcontractors and people like this, my network, and just kind of telling them I'm going to be doing this. I'm starting another GC company. And as I sit down with coffee with these guys and network, and they talk to me about problems in their business, and I would end up, helping them solve it over the next couple of weeks, just kind of pro bono, right? Like, oh, you know what? I think I can help you and helping them navigate whatever that burning problem was in their business. And then as I booked these coffees, I was excited to get out of bed again. I was excited to get up and go talk business with people, right?
And not to interrupt you, but such a crazy alignment with how you're saying that, the fulfillment. So I've been fortunate to be a part of, big impactful change in a community and with families. And when you help somebody with a problem, the reward for me, and obviously for you as well, is wildly fulfilling. Whatever fulfills other people, everybody has a different fulfillment. But I mean, when you recognize that shift where it's just like, this is like, I mean, like you said, this gets me out of bed. This gets me out of bed, that I get to help these guys with their burning problems. And then I get to shut it off. I got to disconnect and go enjoy time with my family or do whatever. And so, not to interrupt you, but I can totally relate with that statement. So continue to dig into that.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, so exactly like to your point, Brandon. Like I felt like, okay, I helped this business, and then I could go home and I don't have to worry about my fleet of vehicles costing me $30,000 this year because something happened. You know what I mean? Something like that, right? It was kind of nice to shut that off and live the evenings with my family, knowing that, hey, I can talk at dinner time now. I'm not kind of consumed by this massive business that I have to run. But at the same time, I know I did something good that day and I helped somebody. And kind of through that, basically, I just had people reaching out to me all the time, and I was like, I should make a go with this. So I actually signed a 6-month contract with a company just outside of Woodstock, and as a business development manager, just to go in and help them as well. And that through that 6 months, I was like, I'm doing this. I am just gonna, but I need to do this for more people. Mm-hmm. So kind of let them know what I was doing. And as at 6 months was at the end of December. I'm now basically fully on my own as a coach, also taking care of that company. I really, really, really appreciate the opportunity they gave me, and they're awesome. It's a family business, an awesome family to work with. So I'm going to keep supporting them. They're like, right now, they're kind of like my number one. Like, let's make sure that they have everything they need to keep growing with the systems that we put in place. But yeah, now it's just kind of like I have a couple fractional people that I work with, as you know, and then as I'm coming on, as I have more time to get into your group calls and stuff and just hear everybody's story, like it's great, man. Like, I just get excited for having the time to be able to do that. I don't know who I'll be coaching next or their story yet, but I'm really excited to meet that person and be able to add some value to their business.
Oh, dude, there's going to be people. I mean, like, I remember when I got into coaching, and building this business out, it's hard. Just like when you were 24, starting your business again, all the same shit, just different. And in an industry that's so much different, you possess, buckets of skills and abilities. And then, implementing and organizing the business element is a whole nother beast. And operating as an online, service provider is also a different beast. It's very uncomfortable, but what gets you out of bed is the success, and the late text messages about, hey man, I just got this job, or hey, I just got this, or, I'm working with somebody right now who's in Ontario, and they went from doing bathrooms, like premium high-end bathrooms, to securing a $4 million build. And wow. We roadmapped the whole thing. And it's just like, to be a part of that excitement is crazy. And, that is what pushes you. Without question, there will be people that will line up to work with you. 2026 is going to be, I believe, our biggest year. It's going to be a third year, as a coaching company. We're securing new contractors all across North America every week that are here for one-on-one service. And like you said, a lot of the other firms that exist, not to, throw shade, but I mean, they didn't own construction companies, and they haven't gone through shit. Like, when you go through some shit, you know what the other side looks like. And I think that there are very few people that have had the life experiences that are interested in supporting and coaching contractors on things to avoid or things to focus on. And, I think that you've got a wealth of experience, and, I will support you in any way, shape, or form with your, contractors that you support as well. And I know you would do the same for the people that I work with. So I'm excited about this collaboration. I think there's going to be some lives changed, man. Like, it's crazy. And I hope that 24-year-old kids that are starting their construction business, I hope they become monsters and they're like, hey, I'm going to lock in with these guys, and these guys are going to help me build my business, because these are the types of impacts that I think really transform, your direction. And that's the other part that, you'll sit in and you'll recognize, and you've already probably recognized it. You're changing people's lives, by just a simple conversation. It's crazy what a conversation can do for people. Brady, I can't believe it's already been 40 minutes in this conversation. Is there anything else that you want to kind of dig in and share with us? If anybody's looking to find Brady, by the way, you can go hit him up on Instagram. Brady, what is your IG handle?
It's More Solutions _consulting.
There we go. You can find him on Instagram. Brady, is there anything else you want to share with us? I'm sure we could talk for hours, and we'll be doing more of these calls in the future. But I'd love to hear closing thoughts on the convo today.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you touched on it a bit earlier in the conversation about having a mentor, right? And then what you just touched on with learning a new beast, being doing online business and doing this type of stuff is 24-year-old Brady would have been asked, would have been looking for the same thing I am now. But as I was doing as I was kind of looking for somebody to collaborate with and to partner with, the reason that I came to, basically EBS is because I do feel like there's some true mentorship that I'll be able to obtain through you, like Brandon. Like, that's something that I have no ego. Like, I'm not great on content on Instagram. I'm not great on running these calls yet, but aligning with somebody who's willing to teach like you is going to really help me grow as a business coach. So I just kind of want to show, I do believe in mentorship, and there's a reason that I've decided to put my heart behind your horse, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I mean, I don't know everything, and I'll never say I know everything. I've probably failed more times than I've won, but I've also helped people succeed, and I've leaned into very uncomfortable shit and learned through that process. And I think, there's some value that I can provide to you to help you because like you carry some great skills and abilities, you know, and if you can unleash those on the world, dude, you'll change people's lives. And it's a crazy thing to put on your, you know, your trophy shelf when you know that you've got, you know, I'm currently working with like 40 or 50 guys right now on a one-on-one basis. But when you can put them on a shelf and be like, you know, I help this guy do this, I help this guy do this, I help this guy do this, it is a huge confidence booster and it's great momentum. So, you know, when you redefine what you're doing and you get some, you know, a little bit of support, I think you'll be incredibly successful with coaching. And I'm excited, thankful to have you on our team. It's going to be a blast. 2026 is going to be a blast.
Yeah, I'm excited. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So Brady, great conversation. We're going to have you back on the podcast. So if you're listening to this, okay, and we're into 2026 and the conversations that we had on the podcast have been incredible. You know, we've brought on people like Brady, we've brought on contractors, we've brought on different hub hosts that are going to be doing some featured calls. And so the community itself is literally only $49 a month to join into these group calls. You'll be able to meet me, Brady, and other people that support contractors. But we're going to be running a series, okay? The podcast is going to change for a short period of time. We're going to be running a series of 8 episodes. So the next 8 episodes are going to be very, very specific, and it's going to be focused on contractor control. I think a lot of contractors lose control, even in our discussion that we learned today. Contractors lose control of those fundamental pillars of the operation of their business. And I'm excited to share with you that we will be putting together an 8-part series. So that'll be about 8 hours of free information on how to organize and not lose control of your construction business. So if you're not following along, or you want to share this with somebody else, the next 8 episodes, okay? The next 8 episodes are going to potentially transform your life, and they're all for free. And I'm excited to put that stuff out there. And then we'll dig back into our regular scheduled program, you know, to talk with a lot of the contractors and hub hosts. And, you know, Brady will bring you back on as well. And you know, I'm excited about that. So the next 8 episodes, okay? Contractor control. We're going to help you understand and refine and be in control of your own construction business, because most contractors are not in control of their business. And I think they lose control because they don't have the proper systems. And we're going to help you understand what those systems are. Brady, thank you so much. Again, if you want to work with Brady, okay, you can either message me or you can go to ebsworks.com and book a discovery call. And either myself or Brady will be available to help you and support you. If you're looking to transform your life in 2026, you're in the right fucking place. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brady, for your time today. And that is all. Next episode will be one of 8 series. So thank you so much, Brady.
Cheers. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks.
All right, that concludes this episode of the Onsite Podcast. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please pay the tax, share the show. Guys, if you want to be a part of the Elite Builder Society, all you got to do is pay $49 a month. That's it. $49 a month. You get 20 group coaching calls every month. Okay? Go to ebsworks.com and register today. If you enjoyed the show, please pay the tax and share the show.